This is Jennifer Gonzalez welcoming you to episode 35 of the Cult of Pedagogy podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk about 6 EdTech tools you should try in 2016. Over a year ago, I created something I'm really proud of. Originally, it was just going to be a list, a nice long list of all the tech tools I knew, sorted into categories, because it seemed that every time I had a conversation with someone and I mentioned some sort of a tool or something like that, I would get this blank stare from them. And I thought, I have a blog now. I'm going to create this resource that people can refer to so that they don't have to pretend to know something and they don't have to ask questions that make them feel stupid or whatever. They'll just give them a resource. So it's going to be a list of tools. They were going to be broken into categories. So for example, I would have PowerPoint and Prezi and Google Slides all in the same category of presentation tools. And I would have, Kahoot and Poll Everything together in a category called assessment tools. And I would have it all broken down like that. And it was just going to be a list. And then I thought, well, I should at least have every item in the list linked to the website where that tool is. So it'll be a nice, kind of interactive list where people can jump right over and check it out. And then I thought, well, I should describe each one. And maybe I could also just include a little screenshot of it so they can kind of get an idea of what it looks like when it's in action. And also, what if I went ahead and added a link to a video that demonstrated the tool in action? So the list became a book. It became a 210-page PDF, and I called it The Teacher's Guide to Tech. I added a glossary of over 80 tech terms. I added a clickable table of contents so that people could jump around from section to section real easily, and I also did the same thing with the index. It took hours to put it together. I shouldn't even say hours. It took weeks and months to put it together, but I really feel like the finished product was just incredible. So now it's 2016 and I have updated it because, as you know, with technology, things get outdated pretty quickly. And I've decided that as long as I can stand it, I'm going to update it once a year and fix all the broken links and add new tools that have come along and maybe get rid of some that have kind of faded away. And so for this year, I've added over 30 new tools. And I just feel like it's better than ever. It's got new assessment tools. It's got productivity tools, things that can save you time. I've added language learning tools, collaboration tools, fundraising tools, just so much more. See, I know that you do not have the time to research all of these. So I just made up my mind that I was going to put in the hours and do as thorough a job of researching as I possibly could. And I feel like this guide is actually going to be more than just a time saver for you. It's going to help you quickly figure out exactly which tools are going to be right for you and your students. They will make you more efficient. They'll make you more effective. And most of all, they're going to make the quality of your students' learning better. So, to celebrate the release of the 2016 edition of the Teacher's Guide to Tech, I'm going to tell you about 6 of my favorites. 6, for me, they were discoveries. I didn't make them happen, but they were either brand new this past year or they're new to me. And I just think that they're pretty incredible. So in this episode, I'm going to give you a preview of each of these tools in hopes that at least one of these are going to sound good enough to you that you might actually give it a try. All of the resources that I'm going to mention in this episode can be found if you go to cultofpedagogy.com, click podcast in the menu bar, and then select episode 35. That'll take you straight to a full blog post that includes links to all the websites that I mentioned. It's going to also have a description of what each one does and a video that shows each one in action. So when you're listening, if you hear a tool and you think, oh, I want to remember that one, don't worry about it. Just go to the website and go to episode 35. That's all you have to remember because there will be lots of detail there and links to these sites. Almost all of the tools that I profile in the whole book are free. I would say there are probably, out of the 130 plus tools, there's probably 5 that you cannot get without spending some kind of money. But everything else is either free, period, or it has a very, very good free option. So, and there actually were some tools that I profiled last year that changed their pricing structure and went to a paid only. And I removed one of them. I don't know if there were two, but there was one that I just took off because there's no way that teachers can use it for free at all. So I took that one and just left a link to it as an alternative, but I didn't profile it as one of the main tools. So without further ado, let me get started on these 6 tools. Let me tell you all about them. Okay, the first one is called Write About. And it's as in write about this, write about that. So here is what Write About does. I was a writing teacher. I was an English language arts teacher. And I know that one of the big keys to getting kids to learn how to write better is to just have them write more frequently, more words, more time with the pen to the paper or on the keyboard, just composing for lots and lots of different reasons. The people at Write About have figured this out, and they've provided this great platform to just get kids to write. The main function of Write About is to provide kids with lots and lots of writing ideas. So the way that they do this is with an image and what many of us would call a writing prompt. But they don't call them prompts on Write About. They just call them writing ideas. And so the ideas are, let me click over real quick. So it's writeabout.com, no hyphens or anything. Here's one of the writing ideas. What myth or urban legend would you love to test scientifically? And it's got a picture of 2 sort of like scientists sitting at computers. Here's the one right next to it. It's a picture of Spider-Man. It says, it turns out Spider-Man is really a man hunting spiders. What does he do? Tell the story. Here's another one that's very, very timely right now. Write a list explaining how to prepare for a snowstorm. And I say it's timely because half of the US just got hit with a massive blizzard. So each one of these has a photo or a drawing, and it has this just a quick 1-sentence sort of idea. And then instead of the students taking those ideas and going someplace else with them, the Write About platform actually gives them space to compose their writing right there on Write About. So they've got like a little word processing space right there underneath the idea. And they write right there in it. And then, depending on how the teacher has it set up, their writing could just go out to the public, other kids that write on Write About, and they can comment on each other's writing. Or if the teacher has it set up, they can just be seen, their writing can just be seen by other members of the class. But it's this really sort of loose, collaborative, sort of low expectations kind of a platform where it's just, and there's hundreds of different writing ideas. So a kid can just kind of click through and click through and click through until they find something that they like, and then they can write about it for a while. And, you know, if it's not working out, they can always try something else. And the other thing that's great is they don't have to even write. There's a voice recorder that they can use. They can record their ideas. And the teacher can also create writing ideas. So if you wanted to give an assignment in Write About or give a writing prompt, you could actually create one and put it out there and assign it to your students. Teachers can comment on students' writing. They can also annotate specific parts. They can sort of highlight little sections and write notes, and they can also leave voice comments. So there's more to it, but that's the main idea of Write About. And I'm not aware of any other thing like this out there right now. I don't think there's anything else that does what Write About does. And it's a relatively new site, and so I'm pretty excited to see what they come up with next and to see their communities grow. And so that's one of the reasons why I chose it for one of the 6, because I'm hoping more teachers will use it. Another thing to know about this and to think about it is not just for teachers of writing. Some teachers are using this for sort of like social studies writing and reflection on science experiments and that sort of thing. So it doesn't have to only be for creative writing. There are a lot of possibilities here. So I would say definitely go check it out. They do have a pricing structure for added features and more than a certain number of students. But to get started with a class of students, you can definitely do that for free. So I would definitely check that out, writeabout.com. And if you come to the blog post, you can even see a little video of some of their stuff in action. Alrighty, the second tool is called Google Cardboard. And you may have heard of this one because there's been a lot written about it just lately. Google Cardboard, I don't know if you remember those, if you've ever seen Viewmasters, where you put the little circle thing in and you click the side of it, it's a little viewer, and it gives you 2 pictures at once, so it looks kind of 3D. So Google Cardboard is kind of like that way, way better though. It's a 3D viewer. The reason it's called a cardboard is because Google has actually constructed it out of cardboard. It's less than $20 each. And they even give you instructions on their site for how you could make your own. And since they've come out with it, a lot of other companies have created their own versions of it. But basically, this is what Google Cardboard is. You get the Google Cardboard app on your smartphone, and this works on iPhone and Android. And that app will give you a ton of different sort of like virtual reality experiences that you can sort of watch on your phone. But if you're just looking at it with your eyes, it doesn't really work. You tuck your phone inside the back of this cardboard viewer and put it up to your eyes, and it's a 3D 360-degree experience. So not only is it 3D, but if you turn your head, what you're looking at turns as if you're in there. I went ahead and ordered one. I was so excited by them because I just thought it was so neat. And it's like this brand new thing. It's like when the very first Kindles came out, and it's like when the very first, I don't know, Ataris came out. I just wanted to I'm not an early adopter of anything generally, but this felt like my chance to be one. So I got it home. We just put like the little demo on. And one of the first scenes I looked at was of this jungle. And I turned my head, and there was, it just about stopped my heart, this monkey coming toward me in the jungle. And it was like he was a foot away from me, and it made me jump. And I was genuinely scared by what I saw. So that's how realistic it is. And so there are a lot of possibilities for this in the classroom. One of the things that comes along with this new Google Cardboard and their app is that now there are going to be a lot of virtual reality apps that come along that you can use with the Google Cardboard and other viewers like it. So there are travel apps, there are concerts that you can watch. Of course, there are games. So I think we're right at the very beginning of these VR headsets, these virtual reality viewers. But here are some ideas that I'm thinking of and that I'm sort of seeing people talking about. Students could do or sort of feel like they're participating in more complex science experiments and simulations, even if you have no equipment. They could take tours and experience simulations of historical places and events, archaeological digs, go to unique geological and natural formations. They could actually go there. Students could even practice things like public speaking in front of a large audience. They really feel so real when you're wearing them. Virtual experiences could also be used as prompts for creative writing assignments or to provide material even for research projects. If someone's researching, Machu Picchu and they can actually go there, I would think that their descriptions of it are going to be richer. And who knows, you might even start using virtual reality apps as a resource that you list at the end of a research paper. One of the most exciting things that Google is doing with the Cardboard project is something called the Expeditions Pioneer Program. And this is where they're actually going into classrooms. You have to apply for this, but it's free. The chosen classrooms, Google will actually send people with a class set of the Google Cardboard headsets and take the students on these expeditions. And I don't know the full breadth of them, but these are sort of like tours of far off places that they can go to. On the blog post, I actually put a video of students going on these expeditions, and their reactions are just incredible when you see them put these viewers up to their faces and they just freak out. So who wouldn't want that in their classroom? So anyway, I think that we're right at the beginning of the uses for virtual reality headsets and viewers, and I'm sure that the cost of all of them is going to probably go down. But if this at all sounds curious to you, there's a link to where you can buy one of these on the blog post, and you can try it out. If you have a smartphone, check the sizes because it has to be, I think, a 6-inch smartphone. So some of the smaller iPhones I don't think would work with it, but just double check that. And if you don't have one, somebody you know will, and the app is free. So it really just does not take long at all to set it up, but it's just such a neat experience. So I wanted to talk about that one in this episode. Okay. So the first two so far were Write About, Google Cardboard. The third one is something called Versal, Versal. And I just love this one because the design of this site, I think, is just so pretty. I just really appreciate beautiful design, but that is not the main reason why I like it. That's just what really, really suckered me in. But here's what Versal is. So a lot of you have probably, if you haven't actually tried to flip your classroom or done it successfully, you certainly have probably thought about it. So I think at this point, many of us are very familiar with the concept of flipped learning, where the students consume some sort of material without you actually having to deliver it. And then your time in class is spent with discussion or hands-on stuff or some other kind of application of the material instead of you actually giving a lecture. I think one of the things that technology is helping us do is move away from the teacher at the front of the room delivering the content and then the students going off at home to apply it. We're switching that up a little bit. So what's happening is that there are lots and lots of flipped learning tools, things that will let you, take videos and add quizzes to them. And I go over a lot of these tools in the guide. But the one that really caught my eye this time around was this one called Versal. It's versal.com, Versal. And what I love about it is that it goes beyond video. Because a lot of us, when we think of flipped learning, we just think, okay, the kid watch a video at home and then they come to school and we do something. So this Versal recognizes that it's not just video that can deliver the instruction. It may be that you want them to first read a little something and then watch a video and then maybe interact with some sort of an interactive diagram and then maybe read a little something else. There may be a nice sequence that you'd like the students to follow of a lesson. Versal actually sets it up so that you can create a whole course online for free. So you could even set it up with little modules to where the students go through in a specific order, and within the module, you can piece it together however you like. You can put a downloadable PDF in there. You could put a quiz in it. You could have students answer a short response question, then watch maybe another video. It's a whole combination of elements that you put in whatever order you want, and the site is beautiful. It's so clean and beautifully designed, and they also have these things called gadgets that, yes, you can do these little quizzes and stuff, but you have these other things that you can pull in. Some of them I don't even understand because they're sort of like math related or music related. But say you're a music teacher and you wanted to teach your students, you wanted to have them practice some sort of a sequence on a keyboard. There's a keyboard gadget that you can actually just click and pull into a lesson and tell it basically what to do. You don't have to know any sort of computer programming or coding or anything. It's all made really easy, and have the students practice on this thing. You have to go and look at it, but Versal is something where if you really have thought, I would love to be able to I know that I teach this thing every year. I do it, I know exactly how I want the students to consume the material. You could put it all in there in a nicely organized sequence, and then have the students even work through it at their own pace. In episode 30 of this podcast, just a few back, I interviewed Natalie McCutcheon, who does self-paced learning in her class. She basically has sort of the curriculum all laid out, and students work through it as fast as they want to. Versal would be a perfect tool for her. Perfect. Because she could sort of work everything out a little at a time, and then the kids can just go, and it would be perfect for differentiation. You don't even necessarily have to have your whole year or a whole semester. You could just put together one course of something that you think students would be interested in, and that could be a differentiation tool for kids who are a little bit ahead. Maybe have them get started on this enrichment course, for example, or you could use it for a remediation type of course. And you don't have to create all the materials. You can pull in a YouTube video, and you can pull in some of the other tools that I actually talk about in this guide. There's flashcard creators and stuff. You can just pull all that stuff in. So it's not just you making everything from scratch. You can cobble together other people's materials into exactly the lesson that you want. So that is Versal, Versal.com. Tool number 4 is called Noisly. Noisli, sort of like noisy with an I and also an L. Noisly. I love this, and this is one of those tools that I'm constantly recommending to people. Noisly is basically a white noise maker for your computer. It is a tab. You just open it up, you go to noisely.com, and the first thing you see is this sort of mint green screen with a few pretty little icons on it, and that's kind of it. And so one of the icons is water, and you click on that, and then you hear the sound of water. Just like it, sharper image, white noise machine, be basically the same idea. You hear that on your computer. You can adjust the volume of that. You can choose, let's say that was ocean water. You can turn that one off. You can choose rain, okay? So here's the whole point of Noisely. They have a variety of noise blocking sounds for you to choose from. And the idea of it is that when you are working, sometimes you can be distracted by other sounds, and it helps to sort of be listening to some kind of a consistent sound. I don't exactly know why this works the way it does, but when I am sitting at my computer and I want to really kind of focus, I will open up Noisely and I will put together a combination of sounds that is my particular favorite. One of the sounds is cafe, or I think it's called coffee shop. And it is literally the sounds of other people having conversations around you. I mean, you don't hear anything specific, but you just hear a murmur, and you hear silverware clinking, and you hear just little sounds in the distance. And for what I love working in coffee shops, so having that sound on, I don't know what it does to my brain, but it's very relaxing. So I'll put that on, but then I'll also add to it, because you can mix the sounds. I'll add to it the sound of rain and a little thunder and a fireplace. There's a fireplace sound. So sometimes I'll combine all four sounds to make myself feel like I am sitting in a coffee shop on a thunderstormy day with a nice fire going beside me. And I just love it. I love it. It has other sounds too, though. It has dry rustling leaves, and it has a babbling brook, and you can just play. It's just fun. It's just a fun, free productivity tool. If you actually sign up for an account, which is also free, then you can sort of save your own mixes so that you can just click on them easily. I've never done that just because it's easy enough for me to just make them quickly when I get on there. But I think it would be very useful not only for you when you're doing your own work, but also imagine you've got a group of kids and you have them all working on laptops or something like that. Everybody gets their own little earbuds and plugs in and opens Noisely on another tab, and they just all run this little kind of whatever sound of their choice. I'm thinking it would really improve everyone's concentration, and it would keep them from bugging each other. Or I know that as an English language arts teacher, I would do like a silent reading workshop. A lot of times we'd have silent reading in class. Well, silent isn't really silent with a group of 7th and 8th graders. There's farting, and there's other little sounds, and there's people giggling and stomachs growling, and things that can be distracting. And I'm thinking if I had Noisely kind of playing in the background, that would at least sort of buffer some of those sounds or muffle them a little bit so that they're not so attention getting. I don't know. I just think that there are some good uses. And I also think that as teachers, especially as our students start to get older and older, we need to be helping them figure out what works for them. So even just introducing a tool like this to them and saying, hey, try it at home, or stick in your earbuds and try it while you're working. If it works for you, then do it. Some of them might think it's totally weird and not be into it, but if 7 or 8 of your kids are really loving it and it helps them get their work done better, then that's great. Some of your students might go home to very noisy houses, and this may be a godsend for them. So I think it just has a lot of possible implications, but I just think it's such a neat tool. So Noisely. 2 more left. One of them is called Formative. This is number 5, and a lot of people call it GoFormative because their website is goformative.com, but the name of the tool is Formative. So here's what Formative does. Ideally, if you're giving a formative assessment to your students, you'd be able to walk around the room and literally look at every student's page at the exact same time and see what they were writing, so that you could give them feedback instantly if they were heading in the wrong direction, right? This is basically what Formative will let you do. You create these formative assessments, and they can be multiple choice, or they can be handwritten or hand-drawn. So if you're asking students to do sort of like a sketch, or, make me a cosine graph of this or whatever. But here's on their own devices or tablets, I think it's ideally done with tablets, but on their own devices, students take it. So obviously it requires students to have devices or for you to have a class set. But you give the formative assessment and students begin working on it in their own spaces. You, the teacher, on your own device, you are looking at a screen of, say you have 25 students. You've got 25 little blocks on your screen that all are showing what every kid is doing. And you can watch them all in real time as they are sketching or answering the question or whatever, so that you can see who is doing nothing at all and maybe is stuck, or who is doing fine and you know they're good and you don't need to mess with them right now, or who is heading down the wrong direction and maybe you can go over to their desk and have a little conversation like, hold on a second, tell me what you're thinking right now. And it's true real-time formative assessment. And it's watching it in action is sort of one of those wowie moments with technology, because you're looking at the teacher's dashboard and they're looking at all of the students' work at the same time. And I'm guessing probably for some people that might sound way too difficult and too overwhelming. But I also know from teaching that, if I have a class full of 25 kids, I'm not necessarily concerned with all 25 of them. There are probably 5 to 10 who I know are probably going to do fine. And so I can give their stuff a quick glance and know, okay, they got it. And I really will probably be honing in more closely on another 5 to 10 who are borderline, or sometimes they get it or they didn't seem to be understanding in class. So you're not necessarily actively watching all 25 at the same time, but you can. You can set up your formative assessments to be auto-graded. Obviously, the stuff that's hand-graded or written out is something that you would have to grade. But they've also just recently updated the app so that teachers can give written feedback to a question even while the student is answering it, I believe. So you could go into a student's account while they're taking it and type like a comment so that they're getting that feedback from you right away. So it's definitely worth a look. It's a really neat idea. There's another one called ClassKick that I believe does something very, very similar to that. So if you give a lot of formative assessments, which you should be doing, check these out because they're pretty great. It's different from something like Kahoot, where it's more of a game type of an environment. You're kind of testing everybody at once. This is really more kind of private. The students aren't looking at each other's. You can see everybody's, but they can't see each other's. And they're not necessarily working in teams or anything like that, although they could. That could be a different way of using it. But it's a way for you to get like a bird's eye view of everyone and then really, really focus in on individual kids right away without having to run around the classroom and do that. I could actually see applications for it with distance learning even. I'm thinking there was a time when I taught 3 different college campuses at once through video TV, and I could use a tool like Formative for that. You could have everybody, because they sort of log into the same, test that you give them like a class code or something, and they'll go into the quiz. And I could actually see, that'd be a great tool for distance learning. Actually, I could see what's happening in all the different locations all at the same time. So anyway, Formative. The website is goformative.com, but the tool itself is called Formative. Okay, our very last one, I would be pretty surprised if you hadn't heard of this one yet. So it was new in 2015, but it is really gathering very, very quickly in popularity. It is called Periscope. And if you don't already know what Periscope is, or if you've heard about it but you're not 100% sure what it is, here's what Periscope is. It is a live streaming app. And what that means is this. I have Periscope on my phone right now. If I wanted to, even while I'm talking to you, I could turn on Periscope. I could hit the button that says broadcast or whatever it is, start broadcast. And my phone's camera would start filming me, and I would be broadcast out to the entire world. Anybody who has a Periscope app could see me on there, and I could talk to anybody who happened to be on Periscope at that time. Not a lot of people would choose to see me because they don't know who I am. If they're in Peru or if they're in Russia, they don't necessarily know who this person is in the United States talking about ed tech, but they could. And one way that I could let them know ahead of time is I could say, hey, I'm going to be Periscoping at 8 p.m. on this date, come watch. And the other thing is that Periscope is connected to Twitter. You have to have a Twitter account in order to use Periscope. So if you're not yet on Twitter and you've been thinking that you needed a reason, this could be a reason if you were interested in using Periscope. Twitter will actually tweet out as soon as you start a broadcast. It'll say live right now on Periscope, I'm doing this. You give it a title. You give your Periscope a title. So it's being used a lot actually by businesses, people who are they've got an audience and they're, like me, basically, if they've got an audience that they're speaking and it's a way of reaching out to people. But I do think that there are a lot of uses for it in the classroom too. One sort of practical example is if you are having an event at school that parents cannot attend, you can Periscope it. You can let all the parents know. If everybody's really up on technology and everybody's got Periscope, you can say, we're going to be Periscoping the school play this afternoon. So if you are not going to be able to come, if you can't get out of work or whatever, and you really want to see it live, and there's just something exciting about knowing that something is live. You could also, if you were a forward-thinking teacher and you really wanted to stay connected with your parents, another way of doing that would be as a teacher to just have either daily or weekly Periscopes where you just talk for a few minutes. I could see teachers doing this at the end of every school day. You could even do it right in front of your class. You could say, okay, I'm going to Periscope all the parents right now, let them know how our day was. We're going to go over what the homework is, and then parents can do it. And here's the thing, you don't have to watch it live. You can. And the nice thing about watching it live is that if you are watching someone Periscoping live, you can actually send them comments and questions live that they will read on their screen and they can answer them on their screen. So that's really neat. If you've ever watched a Periscope and sent a comment in while the person is still broadcasting and they say your name and they answer you, it's pretty weird. It's pretty cool though to have that experience, to know that they can't see you, but they saw your comment and they're responding to you live and in person. So a teacher could do that. They could do that every day after school. Any parents that could tune in live could respond to it, but Periscopes are also saved for 24 hours on the app also. So if I open my Periscope app right now, anybody that I follow on Periscope, if they have done a broadcast in the last 24 hours, there will be a recording there that I can watch right on my phone. So another use for Periscope, and this is one that a friend of mine, Star Sackstein, who is a journalism teacher in New York, she is a Periscope maven. I can't think of the word, but she's just used it so much. She's doing a lot of innovative things in her classroom, and so she just shares on Periscope. She talks about some of the changes she's making in her classroom. She does a lot of reflection about some of the things that aren't going well and what she's thinking about it. She's just really, really just open and honest and reflective. And if you wanted to get an introduction to what Periscope could be, I would say find Star Sackstein. Her name is Star, Starr. Last name is Sackstein, Sackstein. I think I'll put it in the blog post too, a link to her Periscope, because she's just an interesting person to watch and a really good model of sharing your teaching practices, even when they're not perfect, because that helps other people learn and grow. Anyway, I also think it's just a good idea to know what Periscope is, because your students are going to know what it is. It's going to probably be around for a long, long time. And so it's always good to know what the heck they're talking about when they talk about periscoping, or when they talk about scoping something. That's what they're talking about, periscoping. So those are the 6. I'll go through them one more time. They are Write About, Google Cardboard, Versal, Noisely, Formative, and Periscope. That's just 6. There are 30 more. I added over 30 new tools to the 2016 edition of the Teacher's Guide to Tech. And every single one of them, as soon as I came across it, I would just get excited about the possibilities. But I can't talk about all 30. I wanted to pick 6 really special ones. So to get a peek at the guide, and also for links to all of the resources that I mentioned in this episode, go to cultofpedagogy.com/pod, or just click on the podcast bar and then go to episode 35, and you will find links to everything. Thanks for listening and have a great day. This podcast is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. To learn more, visit edupodcastnetwork.com.